What is going on, guys, and welcome to episode 2 of Form Check Friday. Thank you for everyone who sent in their videos. Just a reminder, if you do want your video featuring in next week's Form Check Friday, please just shoot it to me via a DM or email it to theaestheticstrength@gmail.com and I'll make sure to go over it, okay? But let's get into things, okay? So first up, we are going to look at Miles. Miles is actually one of my online clients, and he is going to be competing in his first ever powerlifting meet it's the same as mine, I should know this. It is going to be April the 18th. Aha, it's my birthday, that's why I remember. So, this video is actually from around Christmas time. It's a 120 for a 1, which is absolutely awesome from Miles. It's been taking a bit of him getting used to doing pause style bench, but he's really finding his groove now, okay? So let's have a little watch through it, and then we'll kind of come back and tweak give him any kind of little cues that he might need that I think. Good. So boom. Nicely lowered, good pause. Up. Good grind. So, looking at Miles's bench, the first thing which I've already spoken to him about this, but the thing that I would kind of work on here is I'd actually change his setup a little bit. So, him competing in powerlifting, competing in IPF, he has to have his heels flat on the floor when benching, okay? So, to start with, when he goes down, I would have him start a little bit further down the bench now and then set up, so that when he's set up, he then doesn't have to move his feet again. You can see here, he has to then move his feet to readjust. If he starts with his feet here and then goes back down, I think he'll be able to stay a lot tighter throughout the movement, rather than getting really tight and then having to adjust his feet and then losing a bit of tightness, okay? Next, I think his wrist position is good, his arm position is good. He tucks his elbows and lowers under control really well. His pause is really nice as well, and he's got good leg drive. We can see lots of tension through his hips and his glutes, and we can see his forearms are nice and perpendicular to the floor. The one thing I really think he could work on is his bar path. On the way down, he tucked those elbows really nicely, but as he goes to press, we'll see this bar move straight up. Okay, he then gets stuck because he's let the bar come a bit too far down his body. If he thinks about pressing up and back, like back up towards his head, then it will just stop that kind of sticking point in the middle and just help him power through that a little bit. If I play that in real time again, you'll see it in a little bit more detail. So he lowers the bar really well, nice and stable, retracts his shoulder blades, and then he presses the bar straight, and then it starts to come back towards his face, and then that's when you see it pop up, okay? So he just needs to work on bringing that bar up and back towards his face when he starts the upwards phase of his bench press. But good work, Miles. And I'm excited for you to smash this meet and get some new PBs. So there's his bench. Now let's move on to Jamie. Jamie, I actually did when I did my PT qualification in the UK, Jamie was working in the gym, which I did my course at. So it's pretty cool. He sent me in a video of his squat and his deadlift, and we're going to go over them now, okay? So Jamie has incredibly long legs, incredibly long femurs, so he's chosen to low bar squat, which is absolutely fine. So a low bar squat is actually a very hip dominant movement, okay? So when we look at it, the knees probably won't actually travel a crazy amount forwards over the toes and things like that. There's nothing wrong with your knees traveling forward, but when we're doing a low bar squat, they necessarily shouldn't travel so much forward. We want a lot more hip bend, and is a lot more hip dominant, okay? So the first thing that I think Jamie could work on is, I think his wrists look quite uncomfortable. I don't know if my wrists were like that, would be. So maybe trying a thumbless grip and working on keeping his wrists a little bit straighter during the squat would, one, take some pressure off his wrists, and two, I know me personally, I find my lats engage a hell of a lot more, which making my my kind of mid back a lot stronger, okay? So that'd be something to have a look at. Next, he initiates his squat. Look at this. The first movement, you see that? The first movement is knees forward. This way, he then runs out of ankle mobility about here, and he loses a bit of stability on the way down. And you can see the weight starts to creep forward into his toes because he's gone knees first. But his hips and his chest are rising pretty much at the same time, which is very nice, so well done. I just think this first initial movement, he really needs to think about making his pushing his hips back further. And also, I think he can get those knees going out to the sides a little bit more, okay? And that will allow him just get that little bit of extra depth to make sure he's hitting depth, and also just allow his glutes and hamstrings to take a lot more of the load, making him a lot stronger, okay? So if I kind of play this now again in real time, if we go, you can see, look at his feet, the weight's kind of creeping into his toes, a little bit of internal rotation on those ankles. So if we think about maybe trying out that thumbless grip and then just really making sure that you push your hips back and knees out, he'll be on the money for that, okay? But nice work, Jamie. Looks like that's pretty comfy. Get some weight on the bar, boy. Deadlift. Right. Jamie's deadlift's pretty nice, to be honest. His back position's really nice. It's good taking his time on the floor, good bracing and things like that. The only little change which I would make is look here. Look how far that bar is away from your shins, bud. So if I asked you to hold a 5 kilo dumbbell out here in front of you, it would start getting heavy after a while. If I asked you to hold it here on your chest, it really wouldn't be that heavy at all. It's the same thing with the deadlift. The further we let that bar come away from our body, the heavier the bar is going to be. The more pressure it's going to put on that lower back, and the less likely you are to actually making the lift and finishing the lift. You can get away with it here because it looks pretty submaximal, but as it gets heavier, this will get a lot trickier. So let's make sure that bar is literally grating your legs on the way up and down, and it will make life a little bit easier, okay? But it's all pretty nice. You're pulling the slack out the bar nicely. You're bracing nice and tight. Hips and chest are rising. Your bum's not shooting up. I think just making that small little change, it will help you a lot. Okay, because if that's happening at these kind of submaximal weights, as you get heavier, that bar is going to drift out further and further and further, and it's going to make it even harder. Okay, so just work on that little thing as well, mate. Lastly, we're going to look at Kieran, aka Chicken, one of my mates who lives in the UK. So Chicken is doing a straight out, like a pull down, okay, a rope pull down, lat work, and his form is really nice. He's got a good squeeze at the top, good contraction, back's a nice neutral spine. He's kind of squeezing up and really pulling those lats back and retracting those shoulder blades. I think he could get those shoulder blades back a little bit more and his chest up a bit higher here, getting a real squeeze kind of mid lats. But the biggest thing I would work on is I would actually swap out this rope. I would either use the longer rope that you've got, or if you have got the bar, and then hang 2 ropes off it, so your hands can stay a bit wider. With a short rope and your hands being a little bit close in here, because of the anatomy of our lats, it makes it very difficult to actually get a full range of motion, because you're trying to pull the rope apart and it just won't get further enough back, so you can't get that full contraction of the lats by getting his hands kind of back here, okay? So that's all I changed. Form looks pretty nice, to be honest. Good control, maybe just a little bit slower on the eccentric or the lengthening phase of the movement there. That's a better rep. Good getting your chest up on that rep. Good. So here, where you've got that chest up and you're really squeezing those shoulder blades back, that's what we want on every single rep. And then a nice long lengthening stretch there. Perfect. Okay? It's pretty nice, buddy. I just think switching out this rope for the longer rope attachment so you can get those hands a little bit further back and get a bigger range of motion, or the bar with the 2 and then attach 2 ropes off of it so your hands are just a little bit wider. Even a straight bar pull down, I prefer to a close grip row because you can kind of keep those hands a bit wider. And I just feel a bigger contraction in my lats, okay? But yeah, that's about it, mate. Awesome. So give those few things a little go. Let me know how they feel. That's it, guys. Nice quick one this week. Not that quick. We're 9 minutes, okay? But that's episode 2 of Form Check Friday. Just a reminder again, if you do want your videos featuring in Form Check Friday, please just send me them via DM or drop them to me on an email at theaestheticstrength@gmail.com. Thank you all for watching. Please like and share the video, and I will see you next week.